ओम स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः. Dear Swami Vedatitananda ji, dear Swami Mahapragyananda ji, today I will be speaking for some time on transforming stress. Now, the reason I chose this topic, transforming stress, is we face stress. We would like to go beyond stress. So we would like to transcend stress. Now, when I heard that there are other wonderful speakers, revered Swami Sarvapriyananda ji, revered Swami Atma Shraddhananda ji, Mahamedhananda ji, I am sure they will be giving lot of inputs to these students on how to transcend stress. So one step before that, I thought I will concentrate on how to transform stress. Because unless you learn to transform, it becomes very difficult to transcend stress. Now, I would like to start with causes of stress. What causes stress in a person? Now, stress is, sit here, stress is age dependent. Stress is age dependent. It is age dependent in the sense, those who are students have one set of stress. Those who are working have another types of stress, another set of stresses. Those who are aged people, they have retired people, they have another set type of stress. Depending on the type of work that they do, they have one set of stress. So stress as such may be, as an abstract idea, may be common, but it depends on what is the kind of work that they do, what is the age bracket that they fall under. Now, I would like to concentrate more on the stress among students. Since we deal with students, I felt it will be more meaningful if we can deal with the student stresses. Causes of student stresses. Causes of student stress. First one is studies and exam. A student's main job is to study, write exams and get certificates. That itself is a main cause of stress. Then they have their assignment deadlines. Then there are relationship issues. When children grow up, relationships change, relationships are formed, they have to be maintained, misunderstandings crop up, relationships break. It's a major stressor. Then there is money, expenses, study habits, spending habits. All these things are some of the main causes of stresses. Then a very important but highly overlooked cause of stress for the students, especially these adolescent children, is sleep. Most of these children that I come across are sleep deprived. So that is the reason when they sit in our classes, they doze. They doze because they have not had sufficient sleep in the night. Many students tell me that they are awake up to 3 o'clock in the morning, 2:30 in the morning. Now these things will be causes of stresses. Peer pressure. Peer pressure is another cause of stress for the students. Peer pressure, mane, these students, friends will be there. These friends, they will tell them that this has to be done. You don't do this, that means you are not up to the mark. You will not be accepted in the groups. So most of your, what we call as bad habits, come under that. Smoking, drinking, abuse of substances, all these things come under peer pressure. Then I heard some very peculiar habits these students develop. They take a bike and they race on the flyovers, Calcutta flyovers. So these are habits and they create a lot of stresses. There's tremendous stresses are there. You don't conform to your friend's requests, you will not be a part of the group. And not being part of the group in this age is a cause of stress. Getting out, through being thrown out from the group is a cause of stress. So, lastly, uncertainty of the future. Children have a lot of uncertainty about the future. As they grow older and older, as they come to higher and higher classes, this uncertainty starts working on them. So I have spoken to some students. They have told me this very clearly. I caught hold of a student. I won't name the college where he studied. He was into substance abuse. I asked him, such a wonderful college you are in, and you are into substance abuse. What is the reason for this? He was studying chemical engineering. He tells me, what shall I do, Maharaj? Ki korbo, Maharaj? What is my future? Pore amar ki hobe? This is the kind of uncertainty that led him to these kinds of habits. So causes of stress, these are all the incidental causes of the stress. These are incidental causes. So we will concentrate mainly on how to deal with stress. How to deal with stress. How do our children deal with stress? How can we guide them to deal with stress? So, in order to deal with stress, first thing we will have to understand what stress is. Then, we can basically think of 4 responses, 4 types of responses. The first one is you can eliminate stress. There are responses which eliminate stress. The second one is you can manage stress. And the third one is you can transform stress. And the fourth one, which our other Swamijis will be speaking about, will be transcending stress. You can transcend stress. So, eliminating stress. How do people eliminate stress? Escape. They escape the very cause. Studies is a cause of stress. Since study is a cause of stress, say let us say end of this month there is an exam. This fellow has not studied. You should see his BP. You should see his tension inside. What he does is, instead of spending his time on studying, he escapes from there into a world of his own. Video games is one such thing. Cinema addiction is another such thing. Your TV, not TV, what is that called? YouTube. So YouTube, then you have this paid channels are there. What is that? Netflix. Now the fun is, this is not a boy who should have actually spent his time on watching TV, movies. He should not be doing that. But he does that because that is his way of escaping. So much so, suicides. People kill themselves. Actually, if you go deep, I don't want to talk much on this topic. It's a very sensitive topic. But then, if you analyze very deeply, that is because there were some causes of stresses, there were some stresses in their lives. They didn't want to meet, they didn't want to face it. Come. So, this is one issue. The other point is managing the stress. Now, how is stress managed by most people? By most people, they enter into some kind of intoxication. Most of the intoxications, your entire intoxication industry runs on managing stress. You're feeling tension, you're feeling troubled, you're feeling anxious. Here, take a smoke. Cigarette companies are not allowed to give their advertisement, but if that were allowed, this is what they would have told. Similarly, your alcoholic drinks, substance abuse. I was once talking to some students of B Arc from a very famous college. Now, he was telling me, one of the boys was telling me, most of his friends were into substance abuse. I asked, is it not strange that so many children are into that? Somebody at least amongst you must be telling, Eta kora bhalo nahi, this is not good, why not come out of it? No, his argument was very interesting. He says, you don't understand, Maharaj. The pressure that we have to come up with new ideas. Architecture requires new ideas. You must come up with very new ideas. Old ideas, diye kaaj hobe na. Coming up with new ideas on a constant basis. You know what a tension that is, what a tremendous stress that is? That is why we do substance abuse. He justified this. That is the way they manage their stress. Then another way of managing the stress is compromise. You compromise. Now, compromise is, in a way, qualitatively speaking, it's a little better than the other types of managing or eliminating stresses, but still, it doesn't serve any purpose. Compromising stress, what it does is, it doesn't allow you, because, see, when we talk of transforming stress or even transcending stress, the fuel for transforming or transcending comes from the stress itself. If you compromise with it, then there is no, you don't develop out of it. So, what do we say by compromising stress? We'll come to that sometime later. Transforming stress. That is what my entire this episode will be on. Then you have transcending stress. What do you mean by transcending stress? See, there are certain ways of thinking, there are certain attitudes. You can eliminate the cause of stress itself. When we spoke a little while ago about eliminating stress, such as escaping, such as suicides, that is different from transcending stress. There what we did was, we escaped giving a standard response to the stress. Whereas here, the very cause of stress is removed. Say for example, there was an interview going on. When the interview was going on, this fellow asks, the company person asks the students, one by one the candidates came, everybody was asked the same question. The question was very interesting. He says, imagine you are on the 15th floor of a building. You are on the 15th floor of a building. The building has caught fire from down. There is fire in the elevator, fire in the staircase, fire in the fire exit. You are on the 15th floor. How will you escape? Some students said, I will jump from the window. You can't jump and survive 15th floor. I will come down the staircase, I will run. You can't, because if the fire is at the bottom, it will only keep on going up. You can't escape. So all answers, they were not valid. All the students joined together and caught him. They asked, correct answer, Taki. How do you escape? He said, stop imagining. Because this entire problem came, you follow the wording of the problem. Imagine that you are on the 15th floor of a building and there is a fire. How do you escape? You cannot escape. There is one way of escaping. You stop imagining that you are on the 15th floor of a building. Then there is no building, there is no fire, there is no question of escape. So there are ways of transcending stress. In fact, that is a permanent solution. But much before that happens, much before we gain a qualification for transcending stress, there is a need for teaching our students how to transform stress. If you don't teach them how to transform stress, they will start managing or eliminating. Managing, most of them enter into substance abuse, and eliminating, you don't know, God knows what will happen. So they develop very wrong life habits, they develop very wrong thinking, very wrong decision making, they kill themselves, they run away from home. So so basically the value of transforming stress, the reason I chose this topic was this. Ultimate value lies in the other topic, transcending stress. But as a via media, till that happens, till our students develop the qualification for working out those transcending stress ideas, they must be given some of these ideas. Now, let us begin with transforming stress. How do we transform stress? First thing that we should know is we should understand what stress is. Sri Ramakrishna had a disciple. His name was Swami Turiyananda. Turiyananda's previous name, when he used to visit Sri Ramakrishna, he was not Swamiji at that time, he was not a monk. His name was Hari. Now, one day, this Hari goes and asks Sri Ramakrishna. He says, I have some thoughts which are troubling me. How do I get rid of them? Now, Sri Ramakrishna gave a very beautiful answer. Ramakrishna knew exactly how to get rid of it. He knew how to transcend those problems. But instead of telling him how to get rid of it or transcend it, he gave him a technique to transform it. He said, what is that Bengali? Mod Ghuriyeda. So, he said, give it a new turn. Give what a new turn? Those problems, those troublesome thoughts that you are having, give it a new turn. Now, this is the fundamental idea behind transforming stress. So, there is a person called Hans Selye. Hans Selye. S-E-L-Y-E. Now, he brought out a paper in 1974. If you can go to this website, www.icnr.com. Please go to that website. There, you will find a paper called The Nature of Stress, written by this person. Amazing study. It is a very, very beautiful study. Now, while explaining the nature of stress, he came up with a concept. He gave it the name called eustress. E-U-S-T-R-E-S-S. Eustress. Eustress. Eutectoid. These are scientific terms. So, eustress. What is eustress? Eustress is positive stress. When stress becomes negative, we have a term for that. It's called distress. I am under distress. This lady is very distressed. This building is under distress. We say these things. There must be an opposite idea to that. There is. And he was, 1974, till such time these ideas were not even correctly highlighted. So he highlighted this, he gave it a name. He called it as eustress. So what we have to teach our students right now is how to look at stress in a positive way so that you can put it to some use. See, this entire thing, it depends on our response to stress. At example, so there was this man. This fellow, whenever he would see a sandwich, he would start shivering in fear. Tremendous fear. As if it is going to kill him. His friends took him to a psychiatrist. So the doctor, he told, this is a very stupid response you have. Don't bother about it. Analyze what it is. What is this? He says, this is bread. What is this? This is cheese, tomato, lettuce, another piece of bread. That is all it is. You are right. This is all it is. Why should I be afraid of it? And then what the doctor did was, he kept one after the other, and the moment the sandwich was formed, he said, sandwich, and he started shivering. So, responses. How do you manage it? So, this is basically, our responses are based on habits. We make a habit of responding to a particular situation, a particular person, a particular time. We make habits of how to respond. Provided we were very, very new, each of our responses at each time, if it were new and fresh, stress would not be there. Stress happens because you have understood that I have to respond to this like this, and that was wrong, that response was wrong, that entire routine of response was wrong, and that is actually what comes up as stress. See, stress is a very technical term that we use. The common term for that will be fear. Stress is nothing but fear. You are afraid of something. So that first you will have to understand where the fear is coming from, why you are afraid of that, and then you will have to come up with responses adequate responses for addressing that fear. That is the only way you can deal with fear, transforming fear. That's a very meaningful way of transforming fear. You see, if you see this slide now, there is a person, there is a psychologist. I think he was a social psychologist, I think. Some field is there like that. His name is Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. Now he came up with something called a challenge ability matrix. What it basically does is, you can see on this slide, the x-axis is ability and the y-axis is challenge. So man faces lots of challenges in life. Now he doesn't face it empty-handed. He has lot of abilities also. There are many abilities that all man has. Now these challenges will be contrasted with his abilities. What is the ability does he have and how much challenge he has to face. Now supposing the challenges and the ability of this person, they match. There's one type of lifestyle he has, one type of quality of life he leads. Supposing they don't match. Supposing a person has lot of ability, no challenges in life. That is when we enter into the fourth quadrant. You will notice here, boredom. He's got lot of abilities, no challenges in life. Then he's got lot of challenges and no abilities. All sorts of responsibilities have been given to him and he has no clue how to deal with them. So that you enter into a second quadrant. That is the distress. That is actually the topic, the area of stress that we are talking of. See, supposing you had ability to face whatever challenges that came to you, there would be no stress again. Bangla te ekta shabda hoche na, Leela Jal na. What is that? How did he work? Leela Ajal. In the Bhagavad Gita is a very interesting thing. Bhagavad Gita, again and again, Sri Krishna is described with the word Prahasanniva. Prahasanniva. Mane, whatever was happening, there was so much of warfare going on, so much of killing going on. He himself could die any moment, but there was a smile on Krishna's face. Prahasanniva. So that means the challenges that he faced were very, very small compared to the abilities that he had. So our problem is, we either have lot of abilities and no challenges, or lot of challenges and no abilities. Supposing you don't have challenges and you don't have ability, that falls into the third quadrant. We call it as vegetable existence. He just exists. He lives. Ache, you ask some people, Kamon acho? Beche achi. That is that. No challenges in life and no abilities. Whereas, our entire concentration will be on the first quadrant. That is eustress, where as much of abilities you have, those many challenges you have, or as many challenges you have, you develop those abilities. If you can match these two, stress will not be there. So joy in life, that is the concept of eustress. Now, if you go through that website, please do take some time, go through that website, icnr.com, where, of course, you can find it on Google in many places, but this is where the original paper I found. I read it, I studied it sufficiently. He gives at least 4 separate steps to come out of distress into eustress. What are those steps? I'll just briefly tell you this. He says, you need a belief system and a mindset of hope. Mindset of hope. Hope is a very interesting thing. There is a person who once said, do not remove hope from a person. It may be all that the person has. Hope. So you have to develop hope. You have to develop a habit of hoping. Most of us, what we do is, we develop a habit of negative thinking. So this is all just a question of negative thinking. It's an internal conversation that we have. Something is happening, some incidents are happening in life. Go on thinking negative. That habit we have formed and we have to get out of it. Once that habit is there, and as long as that habit is there, no other good advice will work on us. No other good step can be taken in our life. So a belief system is required. He says a belief system is required. This is a very interesting thing. You must understand, these are hardcore scientists, hardcore materialists, coming up with these kinds of suggestions, because they understand that is the only way a man can live. A belief system. See, whether God is there or not, I don't know. But a belief in God is essential for a man. This is a very interesting set they have found out. You require it because it's a working tool. It helps you navigate your life. It helps you deal with your stresses. It helps you deal with your challenges. Like Swamiji says. Yes, Swamiji also was one of these people only. He says, you may pray to all the gods in the world, but then the actual answer to all those prayers came from within you. So it doesn't matter actually where the answer came from, whether it came from within me, whether it came from XYZ God living somewhere else, we don't matter. But answers came. So the belief system taps into that. That is what Hans Selye says. Second, he says, believe in yourself. See, those of you who are conversant with Vivekananda's ideas, you may think, this is exactly what Swamiji said. I am not coming to this problem, to this topic from Swamiji's point of view. I am coming from the scientist's point of view. And see how it matches. This man, who had no clue who Vivekananda was, he says, belief in yourself is a very, very important tool for dealing with stress. Belief in yourself. What is that belief? He explains it. He says, it is a confirmed faith you have. It may be irrational. This faith is irrational. Just as other fears are irrational, this faith is also irrational. He says, because you cannot prove it. If someone asks, "Tum ekta kudra manush, what capacities do you have?" If somebody says that, yes, you may have to accept it. You can't say, "Nana, amar kache prochur capacities ache." You can't say that. But the fun is, a person needs to believe in himself so that you can manage the situation. That is the belief that brings it out. Both are irrational. You see, fear is irrational. The response to fear is also irrational. Response to fear is also irrational. Ekbar ki holo, there was a man who was walking in the desert of Arabian deserts. He was going by camel. Now, After some time, he had to spend the night in a hotel, inn. So, camel upor jache, as you can see, he gets down. Today's hotels have got car parking spaces. You enter in a car is parked, you go to the hotel. So, in those days, these hotels had camel parking spaces. The camel parking spaces were basically, they were rods in front of the hotel. Camel's thread will be there. Ota ki bole? Dori. It is tied to that thread. Now, when this fellow went to this hotel, he saw there are no sticks, they are not there, rods are not there. He doesn't know where to park his camel. He goes to the manager, he asks, hey, where is the place to park my camel? I want to stay the night here. That fellow says, you come with me. What that man did was, he took that thread, that dori in his hand, and shouting at the camel, looking at the camel, shouting at the camel, he says, please see, sir, here is that thread, here is that stick. I am tying the thread to that stick. And once he did that, the camel sat down. And the thread was lying there. So the owner asks, whole night it will be like this, your camel won't run away. He says, my guarantee is that you go sleep. He slept. Next day morning, first thing he did was, he came out and saw whether the camel is there. Camel was sleeping there, exact same position it was there. Then he paid the bill, he wants to continue his journey. He sits on the camel. It doesn't move. He beats it, doesn't move 1 inch. And he starts shouting at the camel, stupid camel, we have to go. When there was a lot of noise, the manager came out, said, Kiyoche, what are you doing? He said, the bloody camel is not moving. He said, how can it move? Didn't we tie it yesterday night? You see this? And looking at the camel, shouting at the camel, that manager said, here is the thread. As you see, I am removing the thread. It is now completely free. Here, take the thread in your hand. That fellow took the thread. Camel got up, started moving. Irrational fear, irrational solutions. What else can you say? Because if there was a rationality behind this, you could have gone for rational thing. But otherwise, this is the way. So what I want to tell you is belief in yourself. The moment we talk of belief in yourself to our present generation of students, they immediately ask, how do you say, Swamiji, how can we believe in ourselves? Belief in God. Is there a God? No, the question is, I don't know that. But if you doubt God, if you doubt yourself, why don't you doubt your fear then? Now, the fears are not doubted. Visavarchan, you have firm faith in your fears. But when we talk of solutions, you immediately start doubting the solutions. You can't be partial towards the argument on one side. Hanselius solutions, you see. Then the third, he says, you must have a perception that you have power and control over situations. This is an amazing thing. Situations happen. You feel helpless. So, I spent a lot of time in the Northeast. Northeast people, they have a different cultural background. They're different from the people of Bengal. Culturally, I mean. So, one difference that I found in the students of the Northeast and the students of Bengal, both are students, same age group. There is a marked difference is there. You know what the marked difference is? The difference is in their power of articulation. They feel something inside. When a student feels something inside, he has to articulate. He has to talk. So in order to talk, he needs a language. He needs words. He must be able to associate what is happening inside with the words that he is going to form. I found one thing. The languages in the Northeast, the local languages in the Northeast India, they are not developed languages. They are not complicated languages. They have only basic words. Vocabularies are highly, restricted vocabularies they have. Therefore, whenever something is wrong inside, I found the students there start beating up. Whereas here, you may say, here also students start fights. I am not talking of those set of students, but majority of the students here, when they have some issues, they talk. So what I mean to say is, this thing you see, having a control over your language tells you that I have a control over the situation. So this perception has to be developed. In children, it has to be developed consciously. No matter what happens, you have still control over the situation. You can talk to people. You can analyze the situation. You can take decisions. So this is the third one. The fourth one is, You should expect the best of yourself. This is an amazing point. These are all those who are associated with Swami Vivekananda, our students, our teachers, they will immediately be able to identify this is exactly what Swamiji said. But I am not coming to this topic from Swamiji's point of view at all. Most of his famous statements of Swamiji, you see, they all match with these things. Anyway, so Hans Selye says, you should expect the best out of yourself. So I remember, Calvin and Hobbes is a famous cartoon. It's my favorite. I read them almost every day. Calvin and Hobbes. It's a small boy, Calvin. Those of you who read will know. So this fellow is sitting in the class. There is a girl next to him. Now, she says, what grade did you get? That the results were announced. So what grade did you get? He's so happy. He got a D minus. D minus, I think, is just pass. He's just passed. He's very happy about it. Now this girl has got a A plus. A plus must be some of the top marks. She is shocked. She says, you got a D minus and you are so happy. You know, I got A plus. And she can't make out why A plus is not making her happy and why D minus is making this fellow so happy. So she asks, you are so happy with D minus. That fellow says, you don't understand. You try maintaining your A plus result all your life. For me, it is not an issue. If I get D minuses, that is more than enough. I should not fail. So, this is not the way to handle stresses. This is what I meant when I said you compromise yourself. Nah, compromise nahi. That fear must be there, and that fear must balance some kind of response. That response must take you a little higher, increasing your abilities. That will give you further challenges. So slowly man grows like that. So that is the quadrant. That is this slide that I showed you was, if we try to move around in the fourth quadrant or the third quadrant, there is no use. Most of us enter into the second quadrant. Lot of stress in life. Can't sleep. All sorts of problems. BP, blood pressure, sugar, headaches, dizziness, getting into all sorts of intoxication habits, wrong thinking styles, wrong lifestyles. And our entire effort will be to enter into the first quadrant. That is where you get joy in life. So here we shall take a small break and we'll come back with how to cope. We'll come back with some important coping mechanisms.